At third grade review lesson here, Nero and Rome burning and the persecution of Christians. Okay, so Rome burns, Nero persecutes Christians. This is part of our song, right? Wicked persecutor of Christians. Okay, so Nero was 16 when he began to rule Rome. Up until this time, Christianity was tolerated along with the worship of pagan Roman gods. Now, tolerated means that they allowed it to happen. However, we see in this next sentence, Christians were beginning to be seen as a threat to the Roman Empire and as poor citizens because they would not worship anyone but their one and true God. Nero instituted the first full-scale persecution of Christians in 64 AD. In 64 AD, a fire destroyed Rome. First, it was said that Nero started the fires. Then the Christians were accused of having started the fires. This accusation led to widespread execution of the Christians. That means they killed them. Nero was one of the worst persecutors of Christians in all of history. He provided evening entertainment by soaking Christians in tar, tying them to poles in his garden, and lighting them on fire. He also threw them to wild beasts. It was possible that during this time the apostles Peter and Paul were executed. Nero began to rebuild Rome. His troops eventually rebelled against him, and he took his own life, which is what some of these guys do when they find they're going to be either captured or killed. Now look at the date, 64 AD. Now we know when we date the New Testament, the writings were in the 60s. So we know this is, after many of Paul's writings. And we know that it says here that it's possible that Peter and Paul were executed during this time. It's very interesting to date the New Testament because there are several theories about it, but it does line up with the Roman history that we see here. So, we can learn a lot from the New Testament, even about our own history, history of the world, I should say. Anyway, interestingly enough, the test and the worksheet are the same. So we're going to not have a problem with that. We're going to review the question and answer for Rome burns, Nero persecutes Christians. So let's write that on our notebook page. Rome burns. And I've been doing ... We know that Nero is persecuting Christians. So in what year did the first full-scale persecution of Christians begin? Now, full-scale means that all out. They were all out to persecute Christians. And this is the dating for this. So we're going to, right here is the date. Okay. Now, we're going to have to write a little more than just the date for this one. I'd like a sentence. Okay, the full-scale persecution, that's one of our spelling words, of Christians was in 64 AD, and Rome was burned. Okay. That's the sentence I'd like you to write. The question has two parts. In what year was the first full-scale persecution of Christians? And what also occurred that year? So this is the full answer. Rome was burned, full-scale persecution, 64 AD. So I'd like a sentence for that, guys. Okay, so I want to stress that a little bit. Second one was, how old was Nero when he began to rule Rome? So this is how old Nero, was, this is why you don't use ink, was 16 years old. Some of you may have siblings that are 16 years old. That is young for this, but in that time, there are very many young men who were already rulers and warriors, and he was already involved. So he began to rule Rome at 16 years old. When Nero came to rule, he no longer allowed Christians to worship God. Why did he do this? Now, right from the card, this is a why. Okay. Christians were seen as a threat. Because they worshipped. That's a little squished in there, but it's worshiped. The one true God. Okay. See if I could turn off my beeps on my phone. There we go. All right, next question. Here we go. Who was blamed for the fires in Rome? Okay. Who? Now, at first, Nero was blamed. However, it was then blamed on the Christians. And this is what set out the full-scale persecution, okay? It's interesting that he was blamed, but then the Christians were blamed. And there is some interesting stuff that could be studied there about that, okay? Who knows whether Nero made that all happen for his hatred of Christians. What did Nero do to the Christians? Number 5. So what did he do? Nero executed Christians. Okay, that's it. Nero executed Christians. That was it. Okay, 6. What 2 apostles were possibly executed at this time? And that is easy. So what 2 apostles? Peter and Paul were possibly executed at this time. And what eventually happened to Nero? This is another what. This is the end of the test. There are no review questions. Woohoo! What eventually happened to Nero? His troops eventually turned against him and he took his own life. His troops turned against him. And eventually, he took his own life. He killed himself. Okay? So we have a really great review lesson here. I'm going to put my face on the camera. Hi, guys. And we are going to go over all of this and review the question and answer. Now, remember, you don't have any review questions. So if you do a really good job, this will be a great test to get 100 on, okay? You already know a lot about this, and I think you can do a great job, okay? Keep up the great work, guys. You had great grades last time, so let's finish well. 4th quarter, let's finish it well, even though we're under a difficult circumstance. God will give you strength. I know he will. God bless. Bye.